think Joe Burrow has doubts about himself?
No, I think just the opposite. I think he's full of himself right now. I'm seeing some confidence that's teetering in cockiness in terms of saying you have the leverage. Does he know the CBA? Does he know what happens if you are not traded, if Cincinnati drafts him?
No pay.
No pay, red shirt, bruh. No pay, red shirt. Is he really going to go to that extent when he had this perfect season and is riding a perfect wave? And to your point, didn't come out like we saw Joe Burrow all year. Firing, absolute mindset, all in. This sounds like a fence ride right here. So a guy who's cocky enough to say, I have the leverage when he's really not making much sense there, is now going to kind of like, oh, let me sing and dance right now and test what the market is saying, what the court of public opinion thinks of me just being indifferent. I don't like it at all. I don't compare it to Eli. I don't compare it to Elway. They rolled the dice on themselves because there was greater upside. No rookie wage scale. Oh, yeah. Back in those days, present value. Oh, yeah, you roll the dice. Now you're slotted. So you know what that money looks like, and it's still a tremendous amount, but still, it's not the same as Eli and Elway. And last but not least, let's clear the narrative up. I love you, Steve Bartkowski. You know I got respect for Carson Palmer, but these not the same Bengals. This team has been to the playoffs. This team has won games in the last decade since Carson Palmer has left. 6 most playoff appearances behind what teams? Patriots, Ravens, Texans, Steelers, Chiefs, and the Bengals are next. You like that company? Me too. If you, oh, you don't like the Chiefs?
No.
I'm sorry.
Like you put Cincinnati in that company.
Hold on. I'm talking about facts. You're talking about LaVar Arrington's feelings.
No.
They haven't won a playoff game since '91.
And the beautiful thing, did we hear about Kansas City not getting over the hump, and now we celebrate them as Super Bowl champions? Mr. Whitlock from Kansas City.
Not in the first round.
Get you a quarterback with Joe Mixon and that defense. Get you some guys, build around them. Let's go play ball.
Well, first things, I'm going to say no. He's not doubting himself, but he's Mr. Ohio. Ohio kid. I mean, at some point in time, he was a Bengals fan, maybe a Browns fan, just to get a chance to play at home. He's doing what is comfortable for him. He's also looking at it, if I'm not, it's a big difference. I mean, first pick, you're going to get about $40 million guaranteed. 5th, 6th, 7th, now you down into something, a $20 million contract. I mean, it doesn't make financial sense to hold out to demand a trade.
Let me ask you this, though, as you all know. Your second contract is the important contract in the NFL.
Correct.
You put your future in the hands of the Bengals, you're jeopardizing your second
But Carson
contract.
put his in the hands of the Bengals, and he continued to sign on the dotted line. So he's telling this man, don't answer their call, but he kept cashing their checks.
Lesson learned.
You can say that.
But it was a lesson learned for somebody. He's saying for somebody else. It wasn't somebody.
I'm signing this $100 million, but y'all go do something else.
You know, that kind of
After
swayed
he
me a
walked
little
away
bit.
and said,
No.
when Carson retired prematurely and tried to force their hand, you know, he made the comment about how much money he had in the bank. And then that's when he decided that he was going to force his way out. But he had a chance after 5 years to not re-sign that contract, to not put his future in the hands of the Bengals. And now he's telling this Ohio kid, Mr. Ohio, to hold out and don't answer their calls.
I'll just say this. Successfully unsuccessful is a great line to explain the Cincinnati Bengals. I just think when Carson hit him with that, I thought that was great. You said can't miss prospects, make decisions like what Eli and Elway did, but anyways, this is too many misses for a team. This is a can't make it team. And I just think looking at and focusing in on Joe Burrow in this situation is the wrong focus. I think Carson Palmer, Keely Smith, Dave Klingler. These are number 1 draft picks for this Cincinnati Bengals team. The only seasons of note for this Cincinnati Bengals team is 81 and 88. You know who their quarterbacks were? Ken Anderson.
I remember that.
All right, dude got player of the year, offensive player of the year. Probably 9 out of 10 people would never even know who Ken Anderson is. And then the next one we know, Boomer Esiason with Ickey Woods, and they did the Ickey Shuffle. If I'm placing my bets, now I will say I'm a little swayed by Scan. And thinking that maybe if I'm like LeBron and I can go back to where I'm from and have success, his star shines way brighter than anywhere else. But then I look at it from this angle. the likelihood and the probability of him being able to go into this market with this team and have success makes me feel like the doubt is in the franchise, not himself.
I'm glad you brought up LeBron James because LeBron James, hometown team, it didn't work the first 7 years or however long.
Well, he went to the finals.
He was close.
That's not
and
working.
got killed by the San Antonio
But he went
Spurs.
to the finals.
Yeah, I understand. He carried a bunch of
Silver
guys
medal.
that we can't even name to the NBA Finals.
Oh, we better put some respect on Booby.
A bunch of guys we can't name to the NBA Finals.
Make that reference.
And again,
Put some respect on Mo Williams' name.
he had to leave.
El Goskis.
Hardcore sports fan over there. He had to leave in order to get those titles. He had to admit it's too much for me right now.
No.
And again, it goes back to ownership. A lack of belief in ownership in Dan Gilbert. And that situation is why he left. Look, Mike Brown's history with the Bengals and his penny pinching with the Bengals. This is Carson Palmer, when he came out, you could get paid as the number 1 overall pick, and therefore it's worth it. And therefore your second contract isn't nearly as important. When you're putting your career in the hands of the Bengals and you got to make it to that second contract, I just think if this kid really believed in himself the way Elway and Eli Manning did, he'd shoot his way out of the situation.
Let's not mischaracterize the situation. First of all, LeBron left because of his best friend in South Beach. We just left South Beach. You don't need much more to go.
But LeBron left after he cashed that second check.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, they all gonna do that first one, re-sign one in the third year, whatever it may be. Here we go. Let's paint this picture perfectly. Paint a perfect picture.
Uh-oh. Marcellus is picture perfect.
Kansas City, 50 years you guys went through a drought with no championship?
No Super Bowl,
and no Super Bowl, won it, right? And then the team you faced that really was winning that game, almost won that game, last year, what was their record before? 13-3. 4-12. So now you saw resurrection from 2 franchises in terms of getting over the hump and getting to the promised land. Now let's talk about the Cincinnati Bengals in the last 10 years. Y'all want to talk bad about the Bengals without looking at the facts. 12 wins, 11 wins, 11 wins, 10 wins, 10 wins, 9 wins, 7 wins. That's half of the decade. This team was winning and winning at a high tilt. You put them with Joe Mixon, and now this guy, quarterback, if he's as advertised, you got something special.
How many of them winning seasons right there? You got written down right
12,
there.
12, 11,
have
10, 10,
the current head coach have Patrick Mahomes as their
No, I'm going to tell you the key.
How many of them seasons?
I'm going to tell you the key. I'm going to tell you the key. Honestly, about the difference between Clark Hunt and Mike Brown. So here the Chiefs are in their drought, and it's extensive. What does Clark Hunt do? I'm going to go out and get the best coach on the market.
Eric Bieniemy.
Andy Reid. Andy Reid. He goes out and gets the best coach on the market.
He did.
What did the Bengals go out and do? What's his name?
They got
Zach
rid
Taylor?
of their best.
But we don't know, though. They could change. I mean, the first thing is...
But we know what Andy Reid was.
We keep skipping over the fact that if they're going to get Joe Burrow, they're going to have to get him something that makes him comfortable. A.J. Green. That's the first thing I do if I'm saying I'm going to draft Joe Burrow.
They
I need to re-sign A.J. Green. I need to back the Brinks truck up, 2 of them if I need to, and keep him there.
And
But
so
they're not going to do that for
when
no
does
rookie.
Mike Brown?
I mean,
talking about Mike Brown.
He's paid them well. If you look at the Bengals contracts, they pay on par with everybody else. It's just their guaranteed money is a little off because they don't want to put that money in escrow. A lot of people don't know when you guarantee that money in the league, you got to put it in escrow. They don't want to come out of that pocket. They want to keep that money in their pocket and operate year to year.
Cincinnati has had tremendously talented players.
True.
And more than one on the teams at times. You think about Takeo Spikes was on that team. You're talking about TJ and Chad was on that team. At one point, they had Henry. They had like 4 receivers on that team.
Yeah.
It is still the black hole of the national. Cleveland,
But let's not just act like
Cincy,
Carson Palmer
Ohio.
was Mr. Football. He was a good player. He was a damn good player. But did you ever say Carson Palmer?
He was the number 1 overall pick.
But did you ever say Carson Palmer is the best quarterback in the NFL?
Absolutely not.
competitive.
But
He was a
again,
competitor.
I guarantee
So he
you,
could have did more. He could have did more on his behalf. If you look at them playoff games, you go back and look at them 2 years that they played the Jets. He was terrible in those playoffs.
Well, he got hurt. The year that it was rolling, it went bad for him. He got hurt in the playoffs, and then it all kind of crumbled after that 05 season. But look, I'm going to go back. Forget Carson Palmer, because I think he was talking a little out of turn for even me, but I didn't push back because that was his experience. But John Elway, let's use that comparison, and don't forget how many times we were saying, when is he going to get over the hump in the playoffs? The shortcomings. He went out on top.
We were saying
did John Elway win a Super Bowl the first 8 years?
He took 3 trash teams to the Super Bowl.
And that's my point.
The Bengals can't win a playoff game.
Hold on, that's my point. Let's get over at least winning the playoff game. That will start something to get momentum. I'm a Clippers fan. Right now are the favorites to win NBA championship.
But y'all might expose being the Clippers in the playoffs. And that's what I'm trying to tell y'all about Cincinnati. Y'all already giving the Clippers the crown. And that sounds good, right? But the Clippers will show that they're the Clippers once they get to the playoffs.
You believe the oxygen between the walls of the facility is going to be where you just can't win?
If you've walked in the oxygen of the walls I've walked in during my pro career, absolutely, yes.
Listen,
absolutely.
The Clippers would be analogous.
Stop it.
If
bad
they had,
oxygen.
The Clippers would be analogous if Donald Sterling was still the owner.
Exactly.
Mike Brown is still the owner in Cincinnati.
Who's paying?
Ever since he became the owner and general manager, 1991, they haven't won a playoff game. You have people like Carson Palmer. We got TJ Houshmandzadeh on this show who's politely said, hey, man, you might want to look elsewhere than Cincinnati. They're not all in on winning. If you're the number 1 pick and you're a can't-miss prospect at quarterback, you want to go to a franchise that's all in on winning.
How many of those bills can he pay with wins right now? How many of those bills can he pay with wins?
What?
So you want to give up? You telling me that this 22-year-old kid should give up millions of dollars to possibly
go to a different,
get a better situation?
No, because he can still be the number 1 pick and go to a different team.
The Cincinnati
Carolina Panthers can trade up.
Well, that's business that
and
the
can
Bengals
be forced to. If I'm not signing there and someone else is willing to give up assets to move up to number 1, there's a way to shoot his way out and still be the number 1 pick.
I think that option is on the table regardless. But to just flat out tell Mike Brown, I ain't gonna play for you, don't draft me, and he gonna say, all right, I'll show you. Mike Brown gonna make his money. They make their money off revenue sharing. At some point, they all share when they get to a certain point. So he gonna make his money.
Only a few players could get away with that without ruining and damaging their brand or their
equity
reputation
lost before you even got
moving
it.
forward.
Why is everybody advising him to? You got Barkowski, number 1 pick. Carson Palmer, number 1 pick.
In 76, and Carson Palmer, respect
They know what year it is. They got calendars.
But the Bengals have won more since Carson Palmer. So guess what? The facilities have changed. The resources have changed. The money has changed.
The owner ain't changed.
But
the general manager situation ain't changed.
He's doing more. The team is winning. There are a lot of double-digit win seasons.
They downgraded at head coach.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. And be sure to check out more of the best clips from Speak For Yourself or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.